If you like the stories, please like the video, subscribe my channel and also share to other people. This story takes place during her time in high school when her school participated in training activities focused on photography, video filming, editing, and storyboard writing. Each school was required to send 5 representatives to attend the training. The members selected from San's school were Jane, Boca, Dan, and Losi. These 5 individuals were chosen as representatives to participate in the training activities. The training took place at a resort in Safel City, approximately 200 kilometers away from Oslo. They stayed at the resort for 3 days and 2 nights, and all the participating students were accommodated there. During the training, San and her friends stayed at a resort for a duration of 3 days and 2 nights. It served as the accommodation for all the participating students in the activities. Upon learning that she would be a representative for the training, San quickly went home to gather her clothes and other necessary items, preparing for the journey ahead. She discussed the seminar with her mother, who inquired about the location of the training. San informed her mother that it would take place at a resort in Safel City. Her mother mentioned that she had attended a seminar there before, describing the beautiful atmosphere and pleasant weather but slight sense of creepiness. San didn't ask any further questions and simply took her mother's words into consideration. On the day of the trip, San woke up early in the morning to ensure she would meet her friends at school on time. They planned to travel to Safel together by bus. The journey to Safel took a considerable amount of time. San and her friends arrived at the training location and proceeded to register for the program. They then gathered in the conference room and attentively listened to the lecturers who delivered their presentations from the morning until the break. However, San started experiencing a peculiar sensation in this place. Since her arrival, she had been plagued by a persistent headache. She decided to share her discomfort with her friends who were present. She asked if anyone else was feeling anything strange or experiencing headaches. To her surprise, Boca responded, "I didn't feel well either." Following the lectures, there was a session on storyboard writing. The lecturer guided the participants in crafting a story and creating the accompanying storyboard and script for a performance. At 5 p.m., the lecturer concluded the session and instructed the students from each school to proceed to their respective accommodations. The resort staff guided them to their assigned lodgings. As San looked around the resort, she couldn't shake off the strange feeling that had been lingering. The place she would be staying for the night was a large house, not just for her and her 5 friends, but also for another school consisting of approximately 10 students. The 2-story house they were assigned to had a storage room on the ground floor, while the upper floor contained a bathroom. Inside the house, there were 2 bedrooms. One bedroom could accommodate around 4 people, while the other was an empty room that could hold up to 5 people. Upon entering the room, San noticed 2 beds on each side. She decided to sleep on the left side of the room and opened the window, revealing a view of a swamp. Around 6 o'clock in the evening, the resort staff made an announcement for all students to gather once again. This time, they were going to explore the filming location for the short film. As everyone assembled, the resort lecturer led them on a walk, providing instructions for the upcoming activities. After the briefing, it was time for dinner. San and her friends, famished from the day's events, enjoyed a delicious meal in a pleasant atmosphere. Although the lighting in the area was sparse and somewhat eerie, they felt content amidst nature and the overall ambience. San and her friends took the opportunity to capture the moment by standing under the lampposts and snapping pictures. They even uploaded them to their Facebook stories. However, while taking the photos, San began to feel a strange sensation. It felt as if someone was watching them intently as they walked. San glanced around, her eyes darting left and right, but she couldn't spot anything out of the ordinary. The situation reminded her of scenes from a ghost movie. During their walk, San realized that there were 4 of her friends, but she sensed the presence of another shadow. This discovery sent a shiver down her spine. She tried counting the shadows repeatedly, but each time she counted, there were 6. She rubbed her eyes in disbelief. When she opened them again, the sixth shadow had vanished. Alarmed, she urged her friends to pick up the pace and quickly walk back to the house, expressing her concern for their safety. Her friends looked puzzled, but nobody questioned her further. They hurriedly made their way inside. Upon reaching the house, San took a shower to freshen up. The first task assigned to them was to shoot a video within the house, specifically a scene set at night. After completing the filming, their teacher approached them and delivered a message. The teacher advised them not to stay up late and cautioned them against speaking about anything they might see or hear. The unsettling experiences San had encountered so far made her wonder what awaited them during their stay at the resort. After the teacher left, San and her friends assisted each other with the remaining tasks and quickly completed the other storyboards. The house they were staying in was a 2-story wooden house with a basement. They could look down from the upper floor to the ground through the wooden floor joints, resembling the structure of an ancient house. The floor had wooden panels placed side by side with a groove in the middle. While they worked together, San couldn't shake off her fear. Looking through the groove in the floor, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. It was around 10 p.m., and they had made about 70% progress on their tasks, with 30% remaining. As they continued working, San and her friends began to feel as if someone's eyes were fixed on them constantly. They occasionally sensed touches, as if someone was reaching out to them. Paranoia consumed San, and she repeatedly glanced at the basement through the cracks in the planks, filled with fear. Her friends suggested that everyone should go to bed. The following morning, San woke up and hurriedly took a shower before getting dressed to join her friends for breakfast as usual. After they finished eating, San and her friends proceeded with their training for the day. The lecturer provided additional knowledge on video shooting and editing, and in the afternoon, the students were given the opportunity to film their short film, which would be presented the following day. While San and her friends were walking back to the accommodation, Jane was always San's behind. Meanwhile, Boca, Dan, and Losi had already walked ahead and reached the entrance of the house. However, when San reached the stairs and looked up, she saw Jane sitting inside the house with the rest of their friends. This confused and shocked her because she had just been walking with Jane and had seen her behind of her along the way. But now, Jane was already inside the house. San turned around to check if the person she thought was Jane was still there, but there was nothing. The person she thought was Jane had disappeared. When San asked Jane about it once they arrived home, Jane claimed to have arrived 5 minutes before San. This left San puzzled, as she couldn't understand how Jane could have arrived earlier. After a break, they resumed shooting the video in the evening, continuing until it was almost finished. They then went to prepare to take showers and subsequently had dinner. After finishing her meal, San went to wash her hands at the sink and noticed Dan washing his hands at the opposite sink, which was behind her. Once San finished washing her hands, she realized that all of her friends had already left the area. She decided to wait for Dan to walk along with her, and when one of her friends asked why she was washing her hands so late, San explained that she was waiting for Dan, who hadn't finished washing his hands yet. As she spoke, she caught a glimpse of Dan sitting on a nearby bench with a group of students from another school. San was shocked and exclaimed, "Oh, I just saw Dan washing his hands behind me, and he hadn't left, but now he's here." Dan overheard San's words and responded, "I've been here chatting with these guys for a while now." Everyone present had shocked expressions on their faces, and no one said anything. Jane then suggested that they should continue filming the video and try to forget about what had just happened. After working continuously for about 30 minutes, everyone noticed that out of the 5 people working together, only 4 remained, as Dan had left the area, afraid of being caught on camera. However, Dan was gone for quite a while. Everyone started searching for Dan in front of the house. They saw someone sitting in the middle of the field, looking back at them. At that moment, they were slowly approaching until they realized that the man was not their friend Dan. They had no idea who he was. It was an old man's face, wrinkled with no black in his eyes, resembling the man they had seen at the window before. He was sitting, turning his back, with his neck twisted back. When they finally saw him, they screamed in shock at what they witnessed. Then they quickly ran back to their original spot. They were terrified. Other students from different schools came to see what had happened. They shared the story with everyone, explaining that San had walked to where they thought Dan was, but he wasn't there. As for Dan, who was standing with the group of students from another school, he confirmed that it wasn't him. That was the whole story that happened during the shoot, leaving everyone startled and frightened. They had to quickly separate and move on to video editing, along with the worry that something else might happen. Eventually, they finished editing the video. As the day broke, it was the day of the short film competition among various schools. The winners would receive prize money and certificates of honor. San's school came in second place. No one felt happy because they still carried the fear from the previous incidents. Afterward, everyone scattered and went back to their accommodation. San and her friends packed up their belongings. As she walked, she felt as if someone was following her the whole time. Several people heard footsteps, as if someone was slowly following them. They didn't dare to turn and look. Everyone hurriedly gathered their things and got on the car to go home. But this story doesn't end here. The unsettling feeling seemed to persist not only in the room but also in the bedroom, where strange sounds increased over time. The next part of the story will be shared in the next time. This is the true story that happened to San, a young girl who is a fan of our channel.